The night after I placed the letter inside the toy box, I sat by the window, staring out at the quiet street. The lamp burned low, its flame trembling as though it too was weary of waiting. But for the first time in a long while, I did not feel empty. Yes, I was still lonely. Yes, my grandchildren still did not know me. But my love had found a home in that sealed box. My voice had found a way to reach them, even if my body could not. I rose slowly and stood before the mirror. My reflection stared back, gray hair pulled into a bun, lines carved deep into my face, shoulders slightly bent. Some would call this face old, unwanted, a burden. But as I traced each wrinkle with my fingers, I whispered, "These are not marks of weakness. These are medals of survival. Each line is a sacrifice. Each crease a story of endurance. This is the face of love that has given more than it ever received." I refused to let their silence make me. Ashamed, I sat again in my chair, folding my shawl neatly around me. The toy box rested on its shelf, glowing faintly in the lamplight. To others, it was wood and twine. To me, it was proof. Proof that even if they erased me from their photos, from their gatherings, from their children's mouths, I still existed. My love still existed because love cannot be erased. If you believe no grandmother should ever be erased from her family, press like, share this story, and comment respect below. Together, let's honor every mother and grandmother whose sacrifices built us. The dawn came slowly, painting the sky in pale pink. I watched as the first light crept into my room, touching the box, the table, the floor. My heart whispered, one day they will know. Blood remembers, roots remember. Even if branches turn away, the roots never disappear. Perhaps I would not live to see that day. Perhaps my grandchildren would only learn of me years later, through the letter, through the toys, through whispers that could not be buried forever. But I would wait, in silence if I must, with dignity always, because I was not just someone from the neighborhood. I was their beginning. I was their foundation. I was their Dadi. They may hide me from their eyes. They may erase me from their mouths, but they cannot erase me from the blood that runs through their veins. And one day, when they are old enough to seek truth, they will know who I was. And they will know I loved them, even in absence. I loved them, even in silence. I loved them, always. That night, after sealing the toy box, I sat at my wooden table with a blank sheet of paper before me. The lamp flickered softly, its glow dancing across the page. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of all the words I had carried inside me for too long. I dipped my pen in ink and began to write. My dear grandchildren, I don't know when you will read this letter. I don't know if you will be children, teenagers, or grown adults when your eyes finally see these words. Perhaps I will be here. Perhaps I will already have gone. But one thing I know, you must hear my voice. You must know my truth. When you were small, I dreamed of holding you, of rocking you to sleep with lullabies, of feeding you sweets with my own hands. I dreamed of telling you the stories that once shaped your father, the lessons that carried him through storms. But instead, I was kept away. The doors of your home were closed to me. And so, you grew without my touch, without my voice, without my presence. But hear me clearly, my little ones, though you did not see me, I saw you. Though you did not know me, I knew you. And though they tried to erase me, my love never stopped flowing toward you. Asterisk, asterisk, the ink blurred as my tears fell. But I continued, asterisk, asterisk, I saved toys for you. I cooked sweets for you. I whispered prayers into the night for you. Every wrinkle on my face carries a story of sacrifice. Every scar on my hands holds the proof of love. Perhaps they told you I was unimportant. Perhaps they told you I was outdated, a burden, unnecessary. But one day, when you are old enough to see beyond their words, you will know the truth. Your grandmother was never absent, she was only silenced. But silence is not absence. Love can wait. Love survives. Asterisk, asterisk, I paused, pressing my hand against my chest to steady my breathing. Then I wrote the final lines. Asterisk, asterisk, if one day you open this box and find this letter, know this, I lived every day thinking of you. You are the dream I carried in my heart. You are the laughter I waited to hear. I forgive those who kept us apart. I hold no anger toward your parents, but I pray that you will choose differently, that you will carry love forward, not silence. And when you think of me, think of this truth. A grandmother's love does not die. It only waits. With endless love, your Dadi. Asterisk, asterisk, I folded the letter carefully, placed it in an envelope, and tucked it inside the toy box, among the dolls and sweets. For the first time in weeks, I felt a strange kind of peace. My love had found a way to live beyond the walls that shut me out. If you believe every grandchild should know the love of their grandmother, please comment respect below. Let's honor the stories that are hidden but never forgotten. That night, I sat back in my chair, my body weary but my heart lighter. The words I had been forced to swallow now existed on paper. My grandchildren might never hear my voice, but one day, they could hear my truth. I whispered into the night, when they read it, they will know. They will know I was never a stranger. They will know I was never just someone from the neighborhood. They will know I was theirs. From the beginning, I thought silence had stolen my voice forever. But ink gave me back my voice. And through this letter, my love could finally speak. One morning, I woke with an ache so heavy in my chest it felt like my ribs might crack beneath it. My body was weary, but my heart was what hurt most. For days I had cooked, cleaned, waited, prayed, and for days, no child had come. I walked to the corner where the toy box sat. Its lid was half open, the dolls inside staring up with their stitched smiles, their button eyes holding a kind of pity I could not bear. I lifted one soft cloth, woolen hair, the little frock I had stitched from scraps of an old sari. I imagined small fingers tugging it close, a sleepy head resting against it. Instead, only my wrinkled hand held it now. Slowly, I gathered all the toys and sweets. I polished the wooden cars until they gleamed. I wrapped the dolls in clean muslin cloth. I placed the sweets into glass jars, sealed tight so time could not steal them completely. And then, one by one, I placed them inside the box. Each placement was like lowering a dream into a coffin. Yet I handled them gently, like treasures because that is what they were. I tied the box shut with strong twine. My hands shook, but I pulled the knot firm, whispering as I worked. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, these will be opened. And when they are, you will know I waited. I loved you. I lifted the box and placed it high on a shelf, above reach, where dust could not settle easily. As I stepped back, I stared at it through tears. To anyone else, it was just wood and twine. To me, it was a vault of love, sealed and waiting. If you believe no grandmother's love should be locked away, please share this video. Let's remind the world that even silence holds love. That night, I sat in my chair, gazing at the shelf. The box seemed to glow in the lamplight, like a small flame refusing to die. I folded my hands and whispered a prayer. God, let them one day find it. Let them open it with curiosity. Let them see, let them touch, let them feel what I could not give them in life. Let them know I was here. I thought of the future years from now when the children would be older. Perhaps they would question. Perhaps they would ask, who is our Dadi? Where is she? Why don't we know her? And perhaps, in searching, they would stumble upon that box. Perhaps they would lift the lid and discover the treasures. The sweets, the dolls wrapped like sleeping memories. And when they did, the truth would speak. The toys would whisper of love, the sweets would echo sacrifice, and the letter I planned to add would tell them, in ink, what I could no longer say aloud. Yes, I decided that Nitai would write. My voice may be silenced in their house, but on paper, it would live. On paper, it would travel across years. On paper, it would tell them, you were never strangers to me. You were my heartbeat. I thought locking the box was the end of my story, but instead, it became my promise for their tomorrow. After that gathering, I told myself I would not step into their house again, uninvited. The humiliation of standing in the corner while strangers held my grandchildren was enough to still my feet. But a mother's heart, it does not give up so easily. Instead, I began to wait. Every morning, I swept the courtyard clean, as if preparing a stage for laughter that never came. I laid out 2 small stools near the door, telling myself that one day, the children might run here after school, sit and swing their legs while I served them warm parathas. I kept sweets in a jar, covered with cloth to keep away the flies. Each time I opened it, the smell of sugar greeted me. But the sweets inside grew harder, older, untouched. Afternoons were the worst. That was the time I once heard my own son's footsteps rushing back from school. My ears still remembered the sound his sandals slapping against the stone, his breathless shouts of, Ma, look what I did today. But now, the afternoons passed in silence. I sat by the door, listening for footsteps that never came. Only the wind moved through the street, carrying dust and stray voices from other houses where laughter still lived. Evenings, I lit the lamp and placed it near the window. Not because I needed the light, it was for them, my grandchildren. A signal, a silent invitation. Here is a home that waits for you. But the lamp burned down to darkness, and no knock ever came. One evening, I cooked kheer again. My hands remembered the rhythm, boiling the milk, stirring slowly, adding sugar and cardamom until the air filled with sweetness. My heart beat with foolish hope. I placed 2 bowls on the table, imagining small hands reaching for them, little mouths smiling as they tasted what their father once called the sweetest thing in the world. I waited that the bowls grew cold. The kia formed a skin, then a sourness. At last, I carried them to the drain and poured them out. The milk ran down the stones like wasted love, disappearing into the earth. If you believe no grandmother should ever prepare food that her loved ones will never taste, please like this video. Let's honor every waiting heart. Nights were the cruelest. I lay in bed, but my eyes stared at the ceiling. The silence pressed too heavy on my chest. Sometimes, I rose and opened the toy box I had prepared. The dolls looked back at me with their button eyes, frozen smiles that mocked my pain. I would touch them, whisper to them as if they were alive. One day, little ones will hold you. One day, you will know laughter. But deep inside, I wondered if that day would ever come. The neighbors began to notice. I heard them whisper as they passed my door. "Poor thing," one said. "Her son has forgotten her." "Not forgotten," another corrected. "Erased." The word struck me harder than the whispers themselves. Erased, as if I had been wiped clean from their story, like chalk rubbed off a slate. One night, as I sat staring at the lamp's dying flame, I whispered aloud, "Perhaps this is all I am now, a ghost that waits for the living, a grandmother in name only, a stranger in truth." I thought silence at their door was painful, but silence inside my own home, waiting for them to come, was far more unbearable. A week later, there was a family gathering. My son's in-laws had come, along with cousins, neighbors, and friends. I heard the noise spilling into the street, laughter, greetings, the clink of dishes. My heart whispered, perhaps in front of others, they will remember me. Perhaps today, I will not be invisible. I smoothed my sari, combed my hair back, and carried a small tin of kheer I had prepared with the last of my milk. My feet trembled as I walked into the house, but my heart beat fast with hope. The room was bright with decorations. Children running about, men laughing, women adjusting bangles and saris. And there they were, my grandchildren, in neat little suits, cheeks glowing, eyes sparkling. I stood near the doorway, waiting for my son to notice me, waiting for him to say, "Children, come, this is your Dadi." But instead, I heard him speaking proudly. "This is your Nana," he told them, pointing to his wife's father. The children bowed and touched his feet. "This is your Nani," he continued. They smiled shyly and accepted her hug. He went down the uncles, aunts, distant relatives, each one given their place, each one welcomed into the children's world. And then, he stopped. His eyes flicked briefly toward me, standing in the corner, clutching the tin of kheer. For a moment, my heart leaped, waiting for the words, "This is your Dadi." But his lips never formed them. He simply turned away, guiding the children toward someone else. I stood frozen. My body shook, not from age, but from the coldness of that silence. The children had been introduced to everyone in the room, everyone, except me. To them, I did not exist. One cousin noticed me and whispered, why don't they tell the children?" But no one answered. Perhaps they already knew. Perhaps it was easier to keep me hidden, like a stain they didn't want photographed. I forced my feet to move. I placed the tin of kheer on the table among the other dishes. No one touched it. People reached for cakes and samosas, piling their plates, while my kheer sat untouched, its sweet scent filling only my corner of the room. I whispered to myself, once, he would eat nothing but my kheer. Once, he said it tasted like love itself. Today, he will not even look at it. If you believe no grandmother should ever be erased at her own family's gathering, please subscribe. Let's remind the world that elders deserve their place. I tried to step forward, to call the children, to say, I am here, but my feet would not obey. Shame pinned me where I stood. Fear chained my tongue. Instead, I watched as they laughed with others, hugged others, touched the feet of others, while I remained in the shadows. At last, I turned to leave. As I walked out, I heard one of the children ask, "Who was that lady by the door?" And I heard my son's voice answer lightly, "Just someone from the neighborhood." The word slammed into my back harder than any blow. Just someone from the neighborhood, not their grandmother, not their root, not the woman who gave them their father, just someone. I stumbled home, the weight of the tin still clinging to my hands, though I had left it behind. I sat down, my body trembling, my heart hollow. I whispered, I thought family gatherings were meant to unite us. Instead, they scattered me like dust in the corner. I thought rejection at the door was painful, but being erased in front of everyone, being introduced as no one, was far worse. The next morning, my heart still carried a faint hope. I told myself, perhaps yesterday was only confusion. Perhaps today, they will recognize me if I try again. I tied my sari tighter, brushed my gray hair, and carried a small jar of homemade pickle, something my son once loved as a boy. As I walked toward his house, each step repeated my prayer. Let them call me Dadi today, just once. When I reached, my son was in the courtyard. His children were playing nearby, their laughter sharp and sweet, filling the air like the music I had longed to hear. My eyes welled at the sound. Beta, I called softly, I have brought something for you all. He looked at me, his face tightening. Ma, why did you come again? I thought, maybe I could sit with the children, I whispered. Tell them a story, just for a little while. He sighed, as if I were a burden too heavy for his shoulders. Then he glanced toward the children, then back at me. Ma, he said firmly, don't confuse them. I froze. Confuse them? He nodded. They don't know you. It's better this way. If you come, if you tell them stories, if you try to act close, it will only confuse their minds. They don't need old tales, old habits. Times have changed. His words fell heavy in my chest. Confuse them, I repeated, my voice trembling. The same stories that kept you awake through fevers? The same songs that calmed you when storms shook our roof? The same lessons that taught you kindness when you were a boy? Those confused? He looked away, uncomfortable. It's not the same, Ma. Children today are different. They need modern thinking. Not your ways. My throat burned. Modern? I whispered. Modern thinking fed you when I starved. Modern thinking stitched your uniforms in the candlelight. Modern thinking prayed over you when you were weak. No, Beta, it was these old ways that raised you. But my words slid off him like water on stone. His eyes were already turned back toward his children, who giggled as though I were invisible. Asterisk, if you believe a grandmother's love in stories should never be called confusion. Please like this video. Let the wisdom of elders be respected. I stood there, clutching the pickle jar, my hands shaking. The weight of it felt heavier than any burden I had ever carried. For once, I did not want to cry. My tears felt too sacred to waste on rejection. Instead, I turned slowly and began to walk back home. My feet dragged. The earth felt harder beneath me. The sky pressed heavier above me. At home, I placed the jar carefully on the shelf. Its scent of spices and oil filled the room, reminding me of the meals I once cooked, of the hunger I once soothed, of the boy I once raised. I whispered, this jar carries more memory than they will ever allow me to speak. That night, I sat in silence, replaying his words. Don't confuse them. They don't need your ways. What he called confusion was the very love that had kept him alive. What he dismissed as old was the very soil in which his life had grown. I thought I would be welcomed for my wisdom, but instead, my wisdom was treated as poison. That night, I could not sleep. The question, who are you, repeated in my ears like a curse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their puzzled faces, eyes blank of recognition, lips pressing into words that cut deeper than knives. I sat by the lamp, its dim glow trembling across the room, and my heart traveled back in time, back to the days when I myself was a young mother, raising children with nothing but my 2 hands and stubborn hope. I remembered when my son was born. The house was small, its roof leaking rainwater, its walls cracked with years. Yet when I first held him, it felt like I was holding the whole universe in my arms. His skin was soft as rose petals, his cry sharp as thunder. I whispered, you are mine. I will give you the world, even if I have nothing. Nights blurred into mornings. I would stay awake by his cradle, my fingers patting his chest, singing lullabies my mother had sung to me. My body was tired, but my heart was strong. His every breath gave me reason to fight another day. When he grew a little, I carried him on my hip as I scrubbed floors, kneaded dough, or stitched clothes for neighbors. My bones ached, my back bent, but when his little fingers curled into my sari, I felt rich. There were days I went without meals so he would have enough. My stomach knotted in hunger, but when I saw him lick his fingers after finishing his roti, my heart unclenched. I remembered the day he fell ill with fever. His body burned in my arms, his eyes rolled weakly, his breath shallow. The doctors asked for money I did not have. Without thinking twice, I took off my earrings, my only ornaments, and sold them. The weight of the gold left my ears, but the weight of fear lifted from my heart when his fever finally broke. Years passed, and the boy grew into a student. I remember standing outside his school gates, clutching my shawl against the wind, waiting until he came out safe. I would slip coins into his palm for books, even if it meant working late into the night. How many times had I whispered to myself, this is for tomorrow. This is for when he has a family of his own. This is for when I am a grandmother. Yes, that was my secret dream. When the nights grew too cold, when my hands blistered from washing, when loneliness pressed against me like a heavy stone, I comforted myself with a vision of the future. A house where my son would sit tall, his children laughing at his feet, and Mimi, in the corner, my lap full of grandchildren, their heads resting against my chest as I told them the same stories I once told him. I lived for that dream, but today, when the moment finally came, the children did not run into my lap. They stepped back, confused, their voices sharp with innocence. We don't know you, my sacrifices, my hunger, my sleepless nights. They had not been written in their memories. They had been erased before they could even begin. If you believe no grandmother's sacrifices should ever be erased, please subscribe. Let's give voice to every forgotten story. I placed my hands on my knees, staring at the lines carved deep into my skin. Each wrinkle was a chapter of my life, each vein a river of sacrifice. Yet to my own blood, I was invisible. I asked myself again and again, how did I become a stranger? And then I knew it was not their fault, the children's. How could they know me when my own son had locked me outside his life? How could they remember me when their parents never allowed me near? The guilt that should have been his rested instead on my shoulders. The shame that belonged to them now painted my face. I had been erased not by innocence, but by choice. I thought raising him would guarantee me love, but instead, raising him only gave me the power to be forgotten. I had waited for this day for years. Every night when the house grew quiet, when the lamp flickered low and the shadows pressed close, I would close my eyes and imagine small footsteps running toward me. I imagined two little voices calling me Dadi, with laughter in their throats. That word lived in my chest like a secret flame, keeping me warm on nights when loneliness gnawed at my bones. So when my son finally said, "Ma, come today, you can meet the children," my whole world trembled with joy. I rose before dawn, my hands unsteady with excitement. I lit a small DA in front of the framed photo of my late husband. Today, I whispered to him, I will meet them, our grandchildren, the pieces of us that live on. I pulled my best sari from the trunk, not new, but clean, carefully pressed. As I draped it across my shoulder, I thought of the way small fingers might tug at its edge, the way little eyes might look up at me with wonder. On the table, I arranged the gifts I had saved for them. 2 small wooden cars, painted in bright red and blue. A pair of soft dolls I had stitched myself, with buttons for eyes and wool for hair. Beside them, a box of ladoos, sweet and golden, prepared with trembling hands and all the love I could pour into sugar and ghee. The walk to my son's house felt like a journey through time. Each step carried memories of when he was small, his little hand clutching mine, his laughter echoing through the lanes, his tears soaking my shoulder when the world frightened him. Now I was walking not just to see him, but to see the next chapter of my bloodline. My heart pounded with the weight of it. When I reached, the gate was already open. I stepped inside, my eyes searching, my ears straining for voices. And then I saw them. 2 children, bright-eyed, playing with a ball in the courtyard. The sight stole my breath. My knees almost buckled as I whispered, "There they are, my angels." I clutched the toys tighter in my hands, walked forward slowly, and bent down so I could meet their eyes. My smile trembled, my voice quivered, but my heart spilled over as I whispered, "Come here, my loves. I am your Dadi." They froze. The ball rolled away across the tiles. The older one tilted his head, his brow furrowed. The younger hid slightly behind him, peeking with wide, uncertain eyes. And then, with a voice sharp in its innocence, the older asked, "Who are you?" The question struck like lightning. For a moment, I thought I misheard. My ears rang. My body swayed. "I am your grandmother," I said softly, my smile trembling at the edges. "I am your Dadi." But their faces only grew more puzzled. The younger one shook his head. "We don't know you," he said firmly. The bag of sweets trembled in my grip. The toys felt suddenly heavy, as if carved from stone. My breath hitched, and I swallowed hard, searching their eyes for some glimmer of recognition, some memory planted in them by love they had not yet known. But all I saw was blankness. Blankness, where there should have been joy. My son's voice broke the silence. He came from the doorway, his tone casual, almost dismissive. "Children, come inside. Don't trouble her." They obeyed at once, running past me into the house, their little feet pattering on the floorboards. Not one turned back to look. I stood frozen in the courtyard, the word Dadi echoing in my chest like a prayer left unanswered. If this moment broke your heart the way it broke mine, please subscribe so more voices of forgotten mothers and grandmothers can be heard. I stayed a moment longer, staring at the closed door. My son did not invite me in. My grandchildren did not know my face. The toys I carried did not find their hands. Slowly, I turned and walked back down the path. Each step felt heavier, as if the earth itself wanted to drag me down. At home, I placed the toys back on the table. I stared at them, their painted colors mocking me with the joy they were meant to bring. Who are you? The boy's voice echoed in my mind. Who am I? I am the woman who gave life to their father. I am the woman who fed him when she starved, who carried him when storms threatened, who sacrificed dreams to build his future. I am the beginning of their story. And yet, in their eyes, I was no one. I pressed my palm to my chest, whispering to myself, they may not know me now, but my blood runs in their veins. One day, their hearts will remember. I thought the sweetest sound I would ever hear was being called Dadi, but instead, the cruelest sound was, we don't know you.